Gordy Lantern had always been ambitious, especially for a vegetable with the attention span of an autumn breeze. While his patchmates dreamed of Halloween glory, maybe a porch, maybe a pie, Gordy envisioned something bigger. He'd seen humans pay absurd amounts of money to be locked in rooms and figure out how to leave. Imagine, he mused one cool October morning, an escape room. Inside me, in a burst of entrepreneurial zeal, he commissioned a family of obliging earthworms to tunnel out blueprints, leased the unused corner of a local farm, and opened Pump Cake Escape, the world's first gourd-based escape room empire. Business boomed immediately. Every room was a different gargantuan pumpkin, each cultivated to truck size by industrial compost and Gordy's personal stash of espresso grounds. An elevated catwalk linked them like orange zeppelins at anchor. From the highway, the place looked like a cluster of citrus hot air balloons that had decided to take a year off. Parents came for the novelty, influencers came for the lighting, and die-hard puzzle lovers came because, frankly, ordinary plywood walls weren't sticky enough anymore. The Monday our story begins, Gordy rolled out of bed literally, because pumpkins lack knees, and surveyed his empire from the observation silo, a recycled grain bin repainted tasteful tangerine. He saw the breakfast club, a bundle of corporate accountants in matching hoodies, already queuing under the peppermint lot pumpkin. He saw Sally's 9th birthday battalion bouncing in line near the pirate pumpkin. Plastic cutlasses clacking. He saw a suspicious corpulent gourd with a clipboard lurking by the fence. That last detail worried him. It looked uncomfortably like Butterknife Delgado, the notorious zucchini union rep, rumored to extort 10% of any successful squash run business. Gordy made a mental note to stay plucky and not get sliced. First came the daily staff meeting. Gordy's employees included Zeke the zucchini, maintenance, Miss Patty Pan, guest experience, and Kevin, a human college intern who still believed this counted as credit toward his business degree. Gordy wrapped a ladle against his rind. Team, it's triple booked Tuesday on a Monday because our booking software doesn't understand holidays. Let's keep the room spick, the clues clever, and, for the love of compost, no one mentioned Thanksgiving. They dispersed, and Gordy addressed the first crisis. Last night's kids had apparently gnawed off half the cipher wheel in the fairy tale pumpkin. No problem, he snapped a replacement from a retired jack-o'-lantern, promising it career advancement, and wedged it into place. He'd just finished smearing cinnamon-scented disinfectant, trademark pending, when the birthday battalion stormed in, brandishing a piñata shaped like a dragon. "Remember," Gordy called after them, "the word pumpkin is not the answer to every lock, only half of them." Next, he rolled to the steampunk pumpkin where the accountants awaited. Behind brass spray-painted gears and whirring rubber band contraptions lay a linear series of logic puzzles that never failed to fracture corporate groupthink. Gordy flicked on the Edison bulbs, each painstakingly socketed into scooped cavities, and recited the entrance speech. "Greetings, daring navigators of fiscal boredom. Your mission: escape this mechanized marvel before your coffee turns to expense reports." The door, a wrought iron refrigerator handle screwed into the rind sealed shut, and the hourglass made of repurposed pickle jars flipped automatically. Gordy settled onto a bale of hay outside to monitor via squash vision, an ability scientists describe as improbable but thematically consistent. Inside, the accountants argued about whether 42 was humorous enough to be a code. Outside, Gordy drafted social media captions. Today's pumpkin pro tip: if the wall is slimy, it's probably a clue. The calm lasted precisely 8 minutes. From the walkie-talkie strapped to Kevin's belt crackled the frantic voice of Miss Patty Pan. "Code yellow in the pirate pumpkin. Repeat, code yellow!" Gordy groaned. Every color code corresponded to a bodily substance. Yellow was lemonade, and lemonade meant sticky slides. He rumbled across the catwalk and peered through the porthole. The party guests had discovered the crow's nest, which doubled as a juice fountain. Someone had replaced gentle ladle use with Niagara Falls reenactment. Lemonade sluiced down the carved walls, diluting the evinquous clues, until they read something like Earth, ARTEKNGFS Protists Tuesday. Shiver my stem. Gordy muttered. All right, emergency mop-up. Armed with an industrial absorbent hay bale and 3 squeegees, Gordy and Kevin slogged inside. Kevin tried to explain diffusion. Gordy tried to avoid dissolving. The kids, instinctively sensing a rule relaxation, began pelting each other with pumpkin seeds pilfered from a decorative jar labeled Historical Display. Gordy's baby photo. After 20 sticky minutes, normalcy returned. The clues re-inked, the kids resurfaced, and Gordy's rind only smelled faintly of lemon pulp cologne. Outside, Butterknife Delgado awaited. He tipped his felt fedora, impressive since butternut squashes have no heads, and cleared his throat. Nice little operation, O-Lantern. Be a shame if someone baked it. Gordy gulped, and seeds rattled inside him. We are fully compliant with all produce-run business ordinances, he squeaked. I've posted the FDA exemption right above the compost chute. Butterknife slid a laminated flyer across the hay bale. Squash Solidarity Service Plan. Sign up, pay dues, and we guarantee no farm equipment accidentally harvest your rooms at dawn. Gordy weighed his options. 1. Pay. 2. Refuse and risk decapitation by combine. Or 3. Divert Delgado into the most devious escape room, then forget to provide solutions. Option 3 sounded theatrical, and pumpkins adore drama. He smiled gamely. Tell you what, you beat our newest attraction, the Noir Pumpkin, in under an hour, and we'll talk benefits. Delgado snorted. I eat puzzles for breakfast. Terrific, Gordy said. Because complimentary cereal clues are provided. They scheduled the attempt for noon. Meanwhile, the accountants, after 47 minutes, discovered the cipher on the underside of a gear disguised as a cinnamon roll recipe. They erupted from the steampunk exit hatch, covered in bronze paint and newfound synergy. As they posed for their victory selfie, Gordy discreetly spritzed them with Vanilla Bean D-Sticker, the company's signature air freshener. At 11:55, the Noir Pumpkin awaited, its interior carved into smoky alleys, all lit by flickering candlelight and swirling dry ice vapor. Gordy prided himself on the authenticity. He'd even taught the candles to flicker on cue by bribing them with marshmallow creme. Delgado rolled in, accompanied by 2 spaghetti squash bodyguards. Gordy flicked the switch. Fog whooshed, a saxophone track crooned through hidden speakers, and the door sealed. For the next 30 minutes, Gordy listened, amused, as Delgado muffed clue after clue. All right, boys. Read me that ransom note again. It says, the dame with the seeds sings at midnight. Counter freckles. How am I supposed to count freckles on a pumpkin carving, you overcooked noodles? At minute 35, the walkie-talkie lit up. Delgado's voice strained. There's lipstick everywhere but no code. Gordy cheerfully replied, remember, sometimes the lipstick is the code. That makes no sense. Neither does daylight savings, yet here we are. Meanwhile, Gordy monitored the birthday battalion's progress. They were now in the cannonball chamber, aligning black-painted gourds by increasing circumference to reveal a secret hatch. Kids excelled at circumference. Apparently, second grade had gone stem-heavy. They might finish under an hour, setting a record. Gordy hoped the prize bucket still had glow-in-the-dark stickers. He'd accidentally eaten half during yesterday's stress binge. Just then, Zeke the Zucchini burst from the maintenance shed waving a valve. Boss! The ventilation fan in the peppermint lot pumpkin jammed, coinciding with levels rising faster than a soda stream in July. Gordy winced. The peppermint lot pumpkin held a pair of influencers currently live streaming their adventure to 2.7 million followers. A ventilation failure would fog their ring lights and, worse, blemish the 5-star rating Gordy cultivated like heirloom seeds. Kevin, Gordy barked, get the portable leaf blower. Zeke, splice that valve with duct tape and candy canes, maximum creativity, go. They hustled across the catwalk. Inside Peppermint Lot, the influencers lounged on a faux mid-century couch carved directly into the rind, alternating between puzzle attempts and product placement. Guys, remember to use promo code PSL4, LIFE, for 10% off any scent diffuser shaped like my dog, cooed the taller one into her phone. The shorter one, noticing the haze, remarked, it's giving mystical eucalyptus? Gordy rolled in, leaf blower roaring, seeds rattling like maracas. Fog dispersed. The taller influencers screamed, then, realizing the dramatic potential, screamed again, but with better camera angle. Kevin patched the vent, Zeke connected the valve, and peppermint aroma flooded back in, masking Gordy's sweaty gourd aroma. Crisis averted, follower count ascended. Back by the noir pumpkin, the hourglass emptied. A buzzer sounded, the door unsealed. Delgado slumped out, lipstick smeared, and down 3 IQ points. Gordy awaited with a clipboard. Time's up, Butterknife. Shall we discuss membership? Delgado sputtered. That room cheated. Nonsense. It merely required linear logic, spatial reasoning, and a working knowledge of 1940s slang. The spaghetti squash bodyguards muttered about femme fatale riddles being outdated. Delgado's stem wilted. Finally, he sighed. Tell you what, kid. I'll waive the first year's dues if you let me try again next quarter. Done, Gordy agreed, signing a cease harvest treaty on the spot. Relief washed over him like warm soup. Pumpkiscape would live another season, but the day wasn't over. At 2 p.m., a high school chemistry club arrived wearing lab coats and the smugness of freshmen who'd memorized the periodic table to impress pets. They requested the Horror Pumpkin, a room so scary, Gordy had installed a pace yourself station with emotional support marshmallows. The Horror Pumpkin's walls dripped with fake blood, raspberry jam, and its puzzles were all pH-based. Students titrated colored liquids into mason jars until the correct shade of chartreuse unlocked a coffin filled with fog machine remotes. Gordy peeked through a periscope fashioned from paper towel tubes to monitor. His concern: the raspberry jam occasionally attracted bees, and bees plus teenagers equaled lawsuit. Fortunately, the jam today had been swapped for gelatinous grape, which only attracted frugivorous moths, and the kids were too engrossed to notice fluttering. At 3:10, the birthday battalion burst from the pirate pumpkin with a record time of 52 minutes. Confetti cannons fired biodegradable glitter, dried kale shards, and Gordy presented the champion's trophy, a neon orange headband reading "Escaped with Flair." One parent asked if the whole facility was gluten-free, but Gordy hesitated. Does gluten even apply to pumpkins? But Patty Pan swooped in, declaring, "We're 100% sorghum-powered." The parent seemed satisfied, maybe because they weren't entirely sure what sorghum was. Between groups, Gordy squeezed in marketing. He filmed a TikTok explaining that every Pumpkinscape room contained exactly one joke about pumpkin spice and at least 2 about corporate dysfunction. The video hit 50,000 views before he remembered to add closed captions. Kevin added them, and the views doubled. Late afternoon brought the couples therapy session, 2 pairs desperate to prove they communicated effectively. They chose the Disco Pumpkin, a room where clues flashed to a soundtrack of 1,970 hits, while the floor gently vibrated via washing machine motors. The therapy worked wonders. By the second clue, both couples stopped arguing with each other and started shouting at the Bee Gees. Staying alive had never sounded so codependent. While Gordy restocked disco ball batteries, AA, coated in glitter, Delgado reappeared, strangely sheepish. He held a gift bag. I brought you something," Gordy peeked inside. "Artisanal rind polish, imported from Tuscany. Consider it a down payment." Delgado shuffled away before Gordy could reply. Evidently, even squash mobsters appreciate a gourd with grit. As dusk approached, Gordy switched on the fairy lights strung between pumpkins. They glowed ember gold, casting the catwalk in cozy luminescence. He loved this moment. The farm hushed except for distant crickets and occasional influencer giggles. He inhaled cool autumn air, thick with the perfume of cinnamon disinfectant, peppermint, and possibility. Then chaos again. The chemistry club triggered the horror pumpkin's secret ending. A dummy farmer wielding a foam machete popped out of a side compartment. The scare was supposed to glide forward smoothly on skateboard wheels, but grease had dripped onto the track. Instead, the dummy shot forward like a caffeinated cannonball, crashed through a thin section of rind, and tumbled off the catwalk, landing headfirst in a haystack. A teenage shriek split the evening. Gordy raced over, heart pounding like a bass drum in a blues band. By the time he arrived, the students had already surrounded the haystack, taking selfies with the dummy. No injuries, only adrenaline high. Best jump scare ever, they proclaimed, awarding 5 stars before Gordy even asked. He decided accidents could be profitable if dramatized correctly. But the broken wall left a gaping hole. The room couldn't run tomorrow with a giant dummy-shaped exit. Zeke examined the wound. We'll need reinforcement. Gordy eyed the retired jack-o'-lantern, currently moonlighting as a cipher wheel. It had sturdy rind and a slight chip on one tooth, perfect structural brace. Gordy summoned it. Congratulations, you've been promoted from puzzle piece to wall stud, he announced. The jack-o'-lantern beamed, or would have if its candle were lit. Zeke cemented it with cornstarch paste, and the horror pumpkin regained OSHA compliance, more or less. Night groups dwindled. Patty pans swept kernels into neat piles, humming sea shanties. Kevin logged feedback forms. Most raved. One complained the peppermint scent made them crave pie in a triggering way. So Gordy marked that as actionable. Finally, at 9 p.m., the last stragglers left and the farm went tranquil. Team debrief commenced inside the lounge gourd, a comfy pumpkin whose interior had been carved into sectional sofas. Gordy addressed everyone. Today we processed 6 groups, 3 crises, 1 attempted shakedown, and 0 actual harvestings. Sales up, social engagement up, and only moderate lemonade damage. I call that a win, they applauded. Zeke passed around mugs of hot apple cider. No pumpkins were harmed in the making. Kevin chimed, we also hit top spot on escaperoomraider.com. Someone titled their review, Great Gourd Almighty. Laughter rippled. Gordy's cheeks, if you could call thick rind cheeks, glowed a deeper orange. Achievements were sweet, but camaraderie sweeter. Who'd have thought a dumped seed in a field could sprout into this? Patty Pan raised her mug. To Gordy, the bravest fruit I know. Technically a vegetable, corrected Zeke. Technically neither, countered Kevin. But botany aside, cheers. They clinked mugs, cider splashed, and the lounge gourd's candle flickered approvingly. Gordy basked, letting the warmth seep through his fibers. Sure, more hurdles lay ahead, Thanksgiving with its existential threat, December when snow could freeze catwalks, and always the specter of novelty fatigue in an attention deficit market. But tonight, Gordy had a loyal crew, a truce with the squash syndicate, and a reservation list stretching into spring. He rolled outside once more. Stars peppered the sky like salt on butternut soup. The giant pumpkins glowed softly, each holding echoes of laughter, frustration, and triumph. Gordy imagined future themes: sci-fi pumpkin with holographic seeds, bakery pumpkin with scratch-and-sniff frosting clues, perhaps even a romance pumpkin where the final key was hidden in a love sonnet etched across the ceiling. Dreaming, he felt the earth cool beneath him. Some might worry about rot or mold, but Gordy believed in planned obsolescence. When this body sagged, he'd compost himself into fertilizer for next year's even bigger pumpkin. Legacy through loam. He hummed a jaunty tune, staying alive, but with lyrics about staying ripe, and rolled back toward the lounge gourd to join his friends. Tomorrow would bring more visitors, more puzzles, more unexpected leaks of lemonade and steam. And Gordy, the sentient pumpkin who dared to think outside his own shell, would be ready with squeegees, cipher wheels, and an endless supply of pulp-powered optimism, because in Pumpcascape, every exit was really an entrance to another adventure.